Right then, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be talking about Ayden Heaven. And I think seeing Ayden Heaven go down injured against Leicester was upsetting for a lot of people. The fans, the coaching staff, the players around him, everyone looked a little bit rattled, actually, by the pain that he seemed to be in as he went down. Now, the good news is that he managed to walk away from the ground with a protective boot on there. But as we know, that doesn't necessarily mean anything. He will be on the injury list for a while. At the moment, it is an unknown period of time that he's going to be out for. I feel like the little cameo that we've seen of him, we've seen enough to do this video and have a look at what we've learnt about him in the short time that we've seen him in the first team. Now, if we're honest, the squad depth absolutely forced him to be into the first team in the first place. But without this injury, it probably would have taken quite a lot to pry him away from that starting position. So I think it's worth singing a little bit of his praises and looking at the sort of things that we have learnt about him since he joined the first team and the club, because he's not been here that long. Number one, rapid integration. Injuries to key defenders like Lisandro Martinez and even Harry Maguire and probably Johnny Evans as well have forced him in at the deep end. Playing first team football for United is not for everyone, especially at a young age. And since joining on the 1st of February, Heaven has played 217 minutes for the first team in 4 appearances. He played in each of our last 3 games and has looked impressive in doing so. And he's 18. To be shoehorned in and to integrate as quickly as he has done is remarkable. Amorim constantly reiterates that a player's age does not matter, and if they're good enough, they are old enough and they will play. And I think his treatment with Ayden Heaven is a prime example of that. Number 2, he's physically fit. Standing at 6'2", he brings a real physical presence to United's back line. He's got long legs, he's got a strong frame, and he's got a physicality that complements the 3-4-3 system quite nicely. He is left-footed, which makes him a real good fit in the absence of Lisandro Martinez. Having a left-footed player adds a little bit of balance and is probably one of the major reasons why Heaven has slotted into the left side of the back three so seamlessly. Before the injury against Leicester, Heaven's first-team progression was moving along quite a rapid pace, actually, and he was quickly adapting to the physical demands of playing Premier League men's football. Hopefully this injury doesn't take too much away from that development. Hopefully it doesn't take too much away from his confidence. But we are going to have to see how he returns from this, because not every player returns to the same level once they do get fit. Number 3, ball playing and temperament. Now, Heaven's performances have highlighted a mentality that puts him above his peers, in my opinion. He's a real differential player, and many of the traits are rare for a teenager, especially with how they've been shown in high-stakes games. One massive element of Aiden's character that's been impressive is his ball playing. Against Arsenal, I didn't think he showed it all too well, and I think, yes, the game kind of didn't allow that, but he also didn't look great, in my opinion, and a lot of you disagreed with that, in the Arsenal game. But in the Europa League, that couldn't have been more different. Against Sociedad, he had an 88% pass accuracy, won 100% of his duels. That was a player with technical ability and poise. And there was an elegance to his play, which you're not necessarily used to seeing in a 18-year-old making his first-team debut. And there's been occasions when he's been allowed to drive forward, when he's been allowed to step in and disrupt the opposition. And every new game, every new appearance from him, we're seeing a different test for him. We're seeing different opposition, how he copes with those. And I absolutely think what we saw against Leicester was ball playing and composure in possession could get ticked off that list. Number 4, injury concern. Now, not exactly a positive here in the slightest, but we do need to talk about the injury. His injury setback against Leicester has raised some concerns, and I think that's understandable. Seeing him stretch it off early in the second half was gutting, really. He was having a real big performance. I think it would be safe to say it was his best performance, and I think his exit kind of underscored his growing importance. The extent of that injury still isn't clear at the time of recording, but it exists as a bit of a reminder of the physical toll that you can have on young players breaking through, but also how precarious these young careers are at this stage and the importance of managing their integration really carefully. If there's any positive, it might serve Heaven as well as a message to the others that working hard on your recovery can propel you even further. Hopefully it's not too bad. Hopefully there isn't any lasting damage, and hopefully he gets himself right. And hopefully we don't get any more, because we can't afford any more bad luck. We will be watching that recovery closely. And number 5, potential. Let's end this on a positive, yeah? Arguably the most important takeaway with Ayden Heaven, I think at least, is that there is a real potential player in there. Not just necessarily in terms of, like, do I think he can play first team? He's showing that he's capable of playing first team. Whether or not he ends up as first choice later down the line, that's on him and how hard he works. Not just getting recovered again, but also on developing and taking those steps forward. The first 100 or so games, you're still a rookie in my eyes. So he's got a long way to go and a lot of games to play before he's going to be considered established. And he's only 18. There was clearly a pathway for more minutes, not just for Heaven, but also Obi as well. They're making the most out of their time on the field, or they've made the most. I think that there's a good chance you might not see Heaven more than a couple of times before the end of the season, if at all. We signed him for $1.5 million, having him decide to leave Arsenal for Old Trafford, following Chido Obi's path. He is, at that price, already worth that money, from what we've seen. United have spent a lot more on a hell of a lot more experienced defenders, and they've not had the level of impact that he's had. I think he's earned Ruben Amorim's trust. The manager has only spoken highly about his introduction in the first team, saying if he continues to play like that, he is going to play. And, you know, there's no reason why Heaven can't absolutely solidify himself a spot where he is a reliable go-to option in the squad. But he could easily push towards being a player that solidifies himself as a first-choice Manchester United player. I'm not saying he's ready right now. I'm saying I can see the pathway for him to do that. He's got physicality, he's got mentality, and he's got a rare skill set in and out of possession that would probably serve him well at United. United's depth has been tested violently this season. Heaven has done well to quell any worries about his selection in just a few games. That's the biggest thing here. It didn't take 10, 15, 20 games and excuses for how young he is. I thought he had a bit of an iffy first introduction against Arsenal, and then after that, he's looked great. His emergence is already exceeding, I think, surely, the club's expectations of what he would be, but it's also exceeding the expectations of some of the more experienced options in the squad. And I think that's a huge positive as the club transitions under Amorim's instruction. Now, when he's back, I think there's a chance, while Lisandro Martinez is recovering himself, that he could stake a claim at being the first choice, at least in Martinez's absence. United have got some decent up-and-coming centre-halves. Yoro obviously going to be the jewel in that crown. Heaven's going to put himself right alongside him. Godwill Kokonki's still going to be in the mix when he gets his chance, which might be soon now. Maybe that's been accelerated with the injury to Heaven. There's some good options there. They won't all make it. They won't all fulfill the potential that they are currently displaying, but all we can do is hope that they can. So yeah, I think Heaven's looked good. Like I said, outside of, off the ball against Arsenal, and I'm not actually spoken about his defensive side here in this entire video, but I thought off the ball against Arsenal it was fine, and there was a lot of trade for that. But I thought against Sociedad, he defended really well, and he was defending really well against Leicester. I thought it was a real balanced performance, like it was against Sociedad, actually. There was a real balance to the performance where he looked like an experienced pro, and that's all you can ask for. At 18, he's doing well. So let's hope this injury isn't too bad a one. Let's hope he can get himself sorted and recovered. And hopefully he spends pre-season just getting himself honed, ready to go, because there's an opportunity come the start of next year's Premier League season, and he could take it. Let me know your thoughts on him in the comments below, and I'll see you in the next one. Laters. Hey, thank you for watching the video. If you are new around these parts, then don't forget to subscribe. My channel is proudly supported by my community on Patreon. If you'd like to get a little bit of extra content, a Discord group, meetups, five-a-side games, weekly podcasts, behind the scenes, and even an occasional bit of transfer news as and when I get it, then for the price of a pint, you can show your appreciation for the content that we make and get some goodies for doing so as well. Check the link in the description or click the button right here. You'll also find all of my socials here too if you want to follow me on any of those platforms. Nice one.